What is going on, everyone? This is Zach back here with another episode of Clutch Crew Sports. And here in today's episode, we've seen games 1 and 2 of the NBA Finals between the Warriors and Celtics. We are going to be here to kind of talk about what's happened so far in the series, take a look back as well on our X factors, and just talk about the finals in general. So should be a good show. Always love talking about the NBA Finals. The whole world's watching. And yeah, let me introduce you to the rest of the crew.
Yeah, what is going on, everyone? It is Eric, your ranting co-host here. Glad to be back at you with another episode here. Like Zach said, we got a lot to talk about with the NBA Finals, so glad to be here and glad to be a part of it, and hope you guys enjoy.
And what is going on, guys? It is Connor, the co-host with the most. Glad to be back on this episode. I missed last week. I actually listened back to it. And yes, Eric, your comment about the Hurricanes did give me PTSD when I watched it back again. So, not...
Sorry, man.
But no, I'm glad to be back and, talk about some NBA and trying to put that horrible Game 7 loss behind me.
Yeah, when Eric was talking about it, I was a little concerned. I was like, I don't know if this is something like Connor's going to want to listen back to if they end up. Sure enough, that ended up happening. But going around the hoop here, talking about the NBA Finals. Games 1 and 2 are in the books. It's a tied series. The Warriors, I think the Warriors really feel like they should be leading 2-0. Based on the blowout win they just had, and then the fourth quarter collapse when they gave up the big lead to Boston. So the Warriors are going to have to win one on the road here in Boston, whether it be game 3, 4, or 6 if it gets to there. So Boston, even though they have the 20-point loss that they just suffered the other night, they still came in. They wanted to win one on the road, and they did it. So I feel like if you're a Boston fan, you can't be too upset with how the first 2 games have gone. But we want to kind of talk about the ways that these teams, the path to win, so to say. When you watch a football game and the announcers at the start of the game are like, all right, here brought to you by Home Depot, the tools.
Tony Romo's picks or whatever that term is that he always has. Romo's picks.
Maybe Home Depot can sponsor us now for me saying that. But
the Home Depot keys to victory.
Yeah, come on, Home Depot, get on it. We need that sponsor money.
Come on.
But yeah, that's what we're going to kind of be talking about for each team, and it's things that they can improve on. So. With a tied series, there's always things that both teams could be doing better at. And honestly, when it's all said and done, I think for either team to win, the list that we've made for each of them is going to have to improve. So each team, we have a few topics about, and we'll go ahead and start with the Warriors. Klay Thompson, I'll let Connor talk about him. How bad has Klay been, and how do you think he gets it back on track?
Yeah, so I mean, Klay Thompson, he's the second superstar, second half of the Splash Brothers with the Warriors, and he's just been very underwhelming so far in the playoffs. I mean, really, in game 1, he wasn't bad per se. I mean, he was 6 of 14, 3 for 7 from 3, but just put up a very kind of mediocre 15 points, which, you really expect more out of Klay Thompson. Him and Steph Curry are supposed to be the ones, Steph Curry's doing his part, putting up his, about 30 points a game in both game 1 and game 2. But Klay seems like he's really been absent when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. Like I said, he did okay in game 1, but game 2 was just completely awful. I mean, he was 4 of 19 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3. Just seems completely not like Klay Thompson. Also in game 3, Klay's really known for his defense, and it's important in this series that he really can shut down the likes of Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, those guards that he's going to be, defending against most often. And, while Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart had bad game 1 or bad game 2s, I'm looking at the stats here for them, like the Warriors, they're plus minus. Draymond Green was only a +7, but the other 3 Warriors starters were all plus 19 and above, and Klay was 0. So it's like he's definitely, it's like you're not putting up points when you're on the court, and your defense, which is what you're also supposed to be known for, you're not really contributing on that end. You're letting, the other team score points when you're on the court. So it's something that's really important for the Golden State Warriors. Steph Curry is going to be Steph Curry. He hasn't shown any signs of being bad, but we talked about in the last episode, I know we're going to get to it a little bit here in a second, that, Eric and I's X factor for the Warriors was Andrew Wiggins. And like, we're not anticipating him to be able to produce all the time. But like, if Klay's also not producing, those nights that Wiggins doesn't produce, then Steph's just going to be left on an island and he can't win these games on his own, especially against this Celtics team. So it's definitely going to be key for Klay to kind of, refigure out what's going on, get back, get his shooting, find his shooting form, and really start putting up the points again, because I know Curry can't do this on his own.
All right, yeah, good stuff there. I think Klay's really been underwhelming. It's not Game 6 yet. Like Game 6, Klay is a real thing. So that's something I've noticed just in the playoffs. I don't know if it's due to his injury. He's not the same Klay Thompson he was pre-injuries. So I'm wondering if that's the reason behind it. But the good thing for the Warriors, at least for their sake, is they've had great guard play coming off the bench now with Gary Payton back in the lineup, and Jordan Poole had a great second half. Eric, talk to us about Draymond Green's composure. I feel like this is a weekly thing that we talk about. Every time we bring up the Warriors, we bring this up because it's a real concern, and he almost got himself in real trouble last night. So what's going on with Draymond?
Yeah, well, Draymond Green is my favorite player. He can guard the 1 through the 5. He's like unbeatable. He can play perfect defense. No. So getting serious here. Draymond definitely needs to be more careful. I understand wanting to be vocal. I understand, wanting to make an impact, and you want to make your presence felt, and all these kind of things. But he's got to stop doing this stupid stuff and getting all these technical fouls. I don't know where he's at on the technical foul limit in terms of like if he gets so many. I know if they get so many, they get a 1-game suspension or whatever. But I mean, we all remember what happened in that NBA Finals against the Cavs when they were up 3-1, and he was suspended for Game 5 because of the too many technical fouls, and we know how that series turned out. While obviously Draymond's not a big scorer, he's not going to light up the points column or anything. He gets rebounds, he plays good defense, especially help defense on pick and rolls and stuff. He's a good passer. He has his ways of impacting the game, and while they expect the majority of their scoring to come from Steph, Klay, and Wiggins, they really need Draymond out there for his defensive aspect of the game. So he's just got to watch out, because I mean, even in the game yesterday, in Game 2, he had a technical foul early in the game, and then he had a little skirmish with Jaylen Brown, and like Zach and I were kind of talking about it while the game was happening, and really, in my opinion, that should have probably been a double technical on both of them. But I think the only reason why they didn't call that was because Draymond had a technical already, so they probably really didn't want to eject him. So then they decided just to wave it off or whatever and just call the common foul. But he got lucky there, because say if he had done that one first and got a double technical, got a tech on him for that, and then later he did the thing where they can't really avoid calling a technical, like he's out of the game. And it was pretty early in the game at that point too. It wasn't like this was when Golden State was up by 20 plus points. Like this was when the game was still close in the first half. So, I like when players are vocal and, smack talk and, try to get under their opponent's skin and stuff, but there's a limit with it, and he's getting pretty close to crossing the line yet again.
Well, to answer your question about the possible suspension for him. If he gets one more flagrant foul called on him, he gets a 1-game suspension because he got that flagrant 2 in game 1. So, and like the NBA allows you to have 3 flagrant foul points. So if he gets one more flagrant foul, he'll get a 1-game suspension.
Yeah, he had that bad one in the Memphis series too. So yeah, he's getting
I want to say, I don't quote me or anything, but I want to say he's had 8 technicals in the playoffs so far, and I think the limit on that's 10 for a suspension. So I mean, obviously the double technical would cause it, but also too just racking them up each game, hurts his case. So yeah, that's a major thing. And as in regards to that play, I didn't think it was a technical. Like looking at it from the perspective, not knowing that he had a technical before, just from that play on its own, I didn't think it warranted a technical based on what happened. To me, it didn't rise to that level. I think actually the Celtics kind of prevented it from happening. Like the Celtics, they need to honestly do a little bit better of letting him get the technicals, like letting him cross the line and giving him the bait, and I think that's something that they could.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like
talking about it.
Yeah, it wasn't like crazy contact, but they both did like kind of shove each other, and obviously words were exchanged. And I can, while I don't know what was said, I can only assume I'm sure they weren't very pleasant words, So like,
I'm sure he was like, "How's your mom doing?"
Hey man,
hey man,
I know you ran into me, but it's okay. I accept your apology. I'm sure that's not.
What are you gonna have for breakfast tomorrow morning? Like, I'm thinking about going grabbing some breakfast. You want to come? Like,
yeah, no, Draymond's not having any conversations like that with the opposition. The next and final thing I have here for the Warriors to improve upon, and this was a game 2 observation, but just kind of for the series overall, they've got to take advantage of easy points. They left a lot of points on the line that they really should have had, and it didn't cost them in game 2, but going forward, this is the kind of stuff that always, in my opinion, watching basketball, like you got to make your free throws. Like they're called free throws, or like
keyword free.
Yeah, keyword there is free. And it wins and loses games. I mean, when a lot of games in the playoffs haven't been particularly close, but I'm assuming we're gonna eventually get one really tight game here. And always after the game, one of the first things, if I'm not watching it the whole way through, I go back and look and see how they did shooting free throws. And sure enough, there will be a team that's like 16 of 25 from the free throw line. The other team was, 22 of 25, and the team that got 22 of 25 won the game. So
by like 2 points or something.
yeah, exactly. So that's just so frustrating. They got to make their free throws. Like the Celtics needed to do that too, but they've been doing a better job of it. And then the missed layups too is a big thing in game 2. Really, it was a team thing. Steph missed one. I want to say Klay missed some. Peyton and Poole did. All their guards did as well. The only guy who was perfect was Looney. Actually, Looney had a clean game with his shots. But yeah, it's just these are the sort of little things that add up. 2 points here, 1 point here. It adds up, and it's something that kind of gets forgotten about. But to me, it's a big deal. Let's go ahead and turn it over to the Celtics side of things. Definitely, if you ask any Celtics fan, you were to poll any Celtics fan, turnovers are the killer, really, for the whole playoffs, and now they're costing them big in this final. So, Eric, talk about the turnover problem for the Celtics. How do they fix it? Can they fix it? And how bad's the problem?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a problem. I think this has been their biggest problem, especially in game 2, because you look at the first half, when the first half was over, it was still close, but in the second quarter, they had a lot of bad turnovers there. And so maybe if they don't commit so many, they maybe actually have a little bit of a lead going into the half instead of it being, I think it was like a 2-point game at halftime. And then in the third quarter, it was almost like they got even worse with the turnovers. And so, not only was Golden State hitting, majority of their shots on the half court possessions, you're also giving them free points. And we already know how good Golden State is in the third quarter, which we're going to address even more here in a little bit. But that's not part of helping to slow that down, is not committing so many turnovers. You don't want to just give them easy points. So it's definitely something they need to address. If I'm, the Celtics coaching staff, like, that's all I'm working on over the next couple of days, ball handling, ball security, taking care of the basketball. And I don't know, man, it's just, I think this has kind of been a thing with the Celtics, like throughout this whole playoffs. Like, they have some games where, they look like the best team in the NBA and they almost look unbeatable. Like even in game one, when they survived all those Golden State runs and then just dominated the fourth quarter of that game, like, they'll look like that. And then they have games like game two where it's like they can't handle the basketball. They look lost out there at times and they don't look like a good team. So they've got to, whatever it is they were doing, like in the second half of game one, they need to do more of that. Like, look for, look for when you're driving in. I don't know why I lost my train of thought there for a second, but like when Jason Tatum's driving in and that double team comes, like, don't be afraid to kick the pass out. I don't know if it's because, like, in game one, Tatum was so bad shooting, he felt like he needed to, be more of a scorer for them, and he got too aggressive. But even though he wasn't shooting well in game one, I was okay when he was driving into the paint, getting double teamed, kicking it out to the open 3-point shooter. That was still a big help. And I think the Celtics need to do more of that. Like, I know Tatum and Brown have been the ones committing the most turnovers, and obviously when you're the primary ball handlers, you're going to have more turnovers than everybody else. But it's just at way too high of a level. And they just got to be more careful and find ways to get better shots and be willing to make the extra pass and just keep their composure.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, man. And that transitioning to my topic for the Celtics, this I think is a direct impact of the turnovers. They've got to get just quality, better shots. I mean, other than Jason Tatum, and honestly, like, I don't blame any shot Tatum takes that's not blocked. I don't care how bad it looks. I've seen this guy just knock down deep threes with hands in his face. So other than Tatum, who can pretty much, shoot from wherever he wants in whatever situation, the rest of the team, they're just struggling, in my opinion, to get good looking shots. It's like they're working so hard to get a good shot, whereas the Warriors, it's just it just looks so much easier for them. Their ball movement is getting guys to shoot open threes. It's the extra passes the Warriors are making. They're passing up a good shot for a great shot. And the Celtics, I think, are just settling for good or average and bad shots. And I don't know, Brown's got to be better. I thought he started off the game really good in game two, but Horford was disappointing. Smart was disappointing. Smart's game is not 3-point. He takes way too many threes, in my opinion. And so it's one of those things, too, where they just have to play, look at the games that they've won and try and mirror that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it just feels like the Celtics are just struggling to get good shot attempts from the players that should be shooting, because they have the talent to do it. It's not like this is a bad team and they're like, we're missing the pieces and stuff. They're healthy. They should be doing better. They're just not. And then finally, I'll let Connor talk about the defensive improvements they need to make, and especially in the third quarter. So is this more so on the Warriors, you think, or the Celtics? Do they need to go with different lineups? How did they stop these third quarter runs the Warriors have?
I mean, almost in my mind, it's one of those things just like almost how can you? Because the Warriors have been known for this for a long time now. I mean, back to the days of, when they were in the finals against the Cavs every year, it was just like this team. I think Jalen Rose called them like the third quarter Warriors are like the 31st team in the NBA. Like they're just so good in the third quarter. It's almost unreal. And I mean, it's honestly in my mind, I feel like I'm not sure there's much the Celtics can do because I mean, it's one of those things like, you talk about changing lineups, but every single one of their starters had a vote for Defensive Player of the Year. So, it's not like they have bad defenders out there on their starting lineup or, sometimes I was seeing this in like the NHL playoffs. One of the reasons why they were saying that like the home team has an advantage is because they have the last line change, so to speak. So the home team can get the matchups on the ice that they want where, and so that way teams usually do better defensively at home. But in the NBA, it's like, it's just the same five guys every time. So, it's just kind of baffling. It's just, I give the credit to Golden State, honestly, like more so than it just being a problem with the Celtics. But the Celtics do really need to try and figure out something because, obviously, and they went in with a lead at halftime in game one. And then by the end of the third quarter, they were down by 12. And, they got lucky in game three or in game one that they were able to overcome it. And they were able to, they went on that, an insane fourth quarter run of their own to win the game. But, they let it happen again in game two where it was, a 2-point Golden State lead at halftime. And then all of a sudden, Golden State outscores them by 21 in the third quarter, and now you're in a hole that you're not going to make up. Like the Warriors weren't going to let it happen a second time that you were going to get that fourth quarter, insane quarter. So, like I said, I don't know. I guess just, get back to that defense that you have been working all year. I mean, I know part of it is probably, I gave a lot of the credit to the Warriors, but I mean, if you look at especially Tatum in game two, I mean, I know a lot of this came in the third quarter, but the fact that he was negative 36, I mean, that is abysmal for a player of his caliber, especially again, he got votes for Defensive Player of the Year just the same as the rest of them. And, Marcus Smart is the Defensive Player of the Year and he can't do everything. Everyone else has to help out. So it's just find a way to stop it. I don't know how you're going to slow it down. But just play better team defense in my mind. That's all I can really say. It's just you have to go back to your game, your style of play, and play the team defense that you can play. And it won't happen. The Warriors won't do that, and you won't need to make these massive fourth quarter comebacks like they had to do in game one. It'll be interesting to see if the Warriors can carry it over when they're on the road. I mean, it's not been an issue in the past, but it'll be interesting to see how they do on the road and if the third quarter trend continues, because if it's even continuing on the road, then that's really bad news for the Celtics, especially if they're not, going into halftime with big leads or anything.
Yeah, totally agree. And these things all circle back to each other. So it's the turnovers that problem is helping the problem of the third quarter because the Warriors are just getting so many easy points, and then the Celtics also in turn aren't scoring when they're turning it over. So these things all kind of circle together. So moving on, let's talk about the X factors that we had in last week's episode. And then now that we're 2 games in, do we like our X factor picks? So we want to change them. I will let Eric talk about his X factor he had for the Warriors.
Yeah, Connor and I both had Andrew Wiggins, so we can kind of talk about him together here. But I still think Andrew Wiggins is the biggest X factor for the Warriors. I would be willing to argue maybe Klay Thompson now, just because of how he needs to step up, like we talked about earlier. But I'm still giving it to Andrew Wiggins. I mean, part of the issues that Jason Tate has been having with his turnovers, like Andrew Wiggins has been a big part of that by helping force some of those turnovers or like blocking shots. And I didn't expect him to contribute this much on the defensive end, but like game one he had a good amount of points. He wasn't as effective in game two, but he didn't need to be just with the way the rest of the team was playing. Like I still have him as my solid X factor here. But Connor, do you agree with me, or are you changing your pick?
Yeah, I still agree that Wiggins should be the solid X factor. I will say, if I could think of someone else who could maybe be another X factor, I probably wouldn't say Klay, just because like Klay is expected to do good. So it's one of those things that I'm not sure I would really consider him an X factor. I think him being bad is just like it just needs to get fixed rather than him being an X factor. But if there's another player that I could think of as an X factor for them, I would think it'd be Jordan Poole in my mind, because he's the guy coming off the bench who's playing in that position that Klay's playing in. And, if Klay's not having a good game, then Poole really needs to step up. And Poole did that in game 2. He had 17 points. He was 5 of 9 from behind the arc. And, he had a really good game for them. So he was able to pick up the slack for Klay in that game, because Wiggins honestly didn't play, at least offensively, he didn't play very good in game 2 either. But, so Poole was able to step in there. But I definitely still agree that Wiggins needs to be the X factor, because assuming that Klay Thompson does find that form again, then, Wiggins does need to be the reliable third scorer. Because if Klay is playing out of his mind, then Poole's not going to get as many minutes as, he would be when Klay's been playing the way that he is. Because, if I'm the Warriors and Klay is hot and Steph is hot, then there's no way I'm taking them out and putting Poole in there. And if I'm putting Poole in there, then Wiggins is the one that I'm taking out. Like, I'm going small. So in my mind, Wiggins does still have to be the biggest X factor. And like you said, he's just got to keep up the good defense on Tatum, since he's the one guarding him most of the time. And, when you're getting Jason Tatum to commit 4 turnovers a game, and, he had a good scoring outing in game 2, but in game 1, Tatum was like 3 of 14 or something abysmal like that, So if you can keep that up and take away the Celtics' best player, then, good on you. Like I said, it doesn't always have to be from the offensive side of the ball, but I agree. Wiggins is still the X factor.
All right, and then I've got the Boston side of things. I picked Marcus Smart as my X factor for him, and I think he's still a big X factor for them. He had a good game 1. They ended up winning that game. He had a pretty bad game 2, and they lost game 2. But from watching both the games so far, I almost want to change it to be Al Horford, because he's an even more extreme example of this. Had a great game in game 1, terrible game in game 2. I mean, he ended up, I think, having like over 20-point differential from his game 1 and game 2 performance. So that's the kind of thing that is what we would expect in an X factor, because they can either be really good or really bad, and how they play is going to impact the result. Tatum is almost like the reverse X factor, because he had a much better game 2 than game 1, but they won game 1, so it didn't matter. But Horford, and I should have seen this coming, because all throughout the playoffs, Horford has been up and down unlike anybody else. It's kind of crazy. I think it's just his age right now, but he has some really good games where it's like, dang, this is prime Al Horford, like, doing really good for the Celtics. And then other games where, he's their 10th best player on the court, so it's very up and down with him. I think at home he'll get it back together. And that's why I think the Celtics still have a shot in the series. I still think this will go 7 games, Warriors win in 7, but Horford really has to step up, and he's a major X factor for him. And that will be it for the episode, guys. Thanks for listening and watching this. And Eric, are you going to be coming out with a daily fantasy type video for game 3 for our viewers?
I do, yes. Since I already did a Captain Showdown video, I'll probably do a Prize Picks video next. So let's see. This is coming out Tuesday. Some people watching this Tuesday, so yeah, it'll be tomorrow on Wednesday. I will be uploading that. So if you want to win some money, be on the lookout, because while I haven't done the greatest on DraftKings, on Prize Picks I've hit on 3 in a row. So I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah. And for that great content, you can find it on our YouTube channel, Clutch Crew Sports. You can search it, hit the link, in our episode notes below. But yeah, subscribe to that YouTube channel. We keep saying this every episode, but there's more and more content on there every day. I put out a video talking about the NBA draft, who I think the Magic should take first overall. Connor had another weekly hockey video, and his hockey content is spot on with his predictions. So another thing that
I wish it had been spot on with the Hurricanes, but
true.
I do appreciate that.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, you've had a really good run on it. So
yeah, I mean, other than I know Calgary kind of went out in bad fashion, but the Avalanche are making me look smart right now. And then, as long as Tampa can get it back together in Game 4 and even up the series, they'll make me look good too. So,
yeah.
In case if you're wondering, Connor literally called that the Rangers would win the first 2 games, and then the Lightning would win the rest of them. So, like, literally all 3 games, even before the series started, he's predicted exactly how they were going to go. Genius. Just
now
saying.
now I'm gonna look stupid. Now the Rangers are gonna win Game 4, and it's gonna be like,
No. I'm trusting you. But yeah, hit up that YouTube channel. Our podcasts are on there as well, so you can see it in video form. It's just a good thing to do. So yeah, that'll be it, guys. Finish promoting the YouTube channel, and remember, be clutch.
bye.
Peace.